Hi, today we're going to be reading Mark chapter 7 through 9. So before we begin, let us pray. Lord, open our eyes so we may see, our ears so we may hear, and our hearts so we may perceive your presence through your Son, Jesus Christ, as we read your word today. So we're going to start off Mark chapter 7. Mark chapter 7. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes gathered together to him, having come from Jerusalem. Now they saw some of his disciples eating bread with defiled, that is, unwashed hands. They found fault, for the Pharisees and all the Jews don't eat unless they wash their hands and forearms, holding to the traditions of the elders. They don't eat when they come from the marketplace, unless they bathe themselves. There are many other things which they have received to hold to, washing of cups, pitchers, bronze vessels, and couches. The Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why don't your disciples walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat their bread with unwashed hands?" He answered them, "Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written? This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. For you set aside the commandments of God and hold tightly to the tradition of men, the washing of pitchers and cups, and you do many other such things." He said to them, "Full well do you reject the commandments of God, that you may keep your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother,' and he who speaks evil of father or mother, let him be put to death. But you say, the man tells his father or mother, 'Whatever profit you might have received from me is Corban,' that is to say, given to God. Then you no longer allow him to do anything for his father or his mother, making void the word of God. By your tradition, which you have handed down, you do many things like this." He called all the multitude to himself and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing from outside the man that is going into him that can defile him, but the things which proceed out of man are those that defile the man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear." When he had entered into a house, away from the multitude, his disciples asked him about the parable. He said to them, "Are you also without understanding? Don't you perceive that whatever goes into the man from the outside can't defile him, because it doesn't go into his heart, but into his stomach, then into the latrine, making all foods clean?" He said, "That which proceeds out of the man defiles the man. For from within, out of the hearts of men, proceed evil thoughts, adultery, sexual sins, murders, thefts, covetings, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man." From there he arose, went away to the borders of Tyre and Sidon. He entered into a house and didn't want anyone to know it, but he couldn't escape notice. For a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit, when heard of him, came and fell down at his feet. Now, the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by race. She begged him that he would he would cast the demon out of her daughter. But Jesus said to her, "The children be filled first, for it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Yes, Lord. Even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." He said to her, For this saying, go your way. The demon has gone out of your daughter." She went away to her house and found the child had been laid on the bed, the demon gone out. Again, he departed from the borders of Tyre and Sidon and came to the Sea of Galilee, to the middle of the region of Decapolis. They brought to him one who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech. They begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him aside from the multitude privately and put his fingers into his ears. He spat and touched his tongue. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, If Thatha, that is, be opened. Immediately his ears were opened, and the impediment of his tongue was released, and he spoke clearly. He commanded them that they should tell no one. But the more he commanded them, so much the more wildly they proclaimed it. They were astonished beyond measure, saying, "He has done all things well. He makes even the dead hear and the mute speak." It's the end of chapter 7. We're now going into chapter 8. Chapter 8. In those days, when there was a very great multitude, they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to himself, said to them, "I have compassion on the multitude, because they have stayed with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away, fasting to their home, they will faint on the way, for some of them have come a long way." His disciples answered him, "From where should one satisfy these people with bread? Here is a deserted place." Here in the deserted place, he asked them, "How many loaves do you have?" They said, 7. He commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves. Having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to serve. They served the multitude. They also had a few small fish. Having blessed them, he said to serve those also. They ate and were filled. They took up 7 baskets of broken pieces that were left over. Those who had eaten were about 4,000. Then he sent them away. Immediately, he entered into the boat with his disciples and came into the region of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees came out and began to question him, seeking from him a sign from heaven and testing him. He sighed deeply in his spirit and said, "Why does this generation seek a sign? Most certainly, I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation." He left them, and again entering into the boat, departed to the other side. They forgot to take bread. They didn't have more than a loaf in the boat with them. He warned them, saying, "Take heed, beware the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." They reasoned with one another, saying, "It's because we have no bread." Jesus, perceiving it, said to them, "Why do you reason that it's because you have no bread? Don't you perceive yet or understand? Is your heart still hardened? Having eyes, do you see? Having ears, do you hear? Don't you remember? When I broke the 5 loaves among the 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up?" They told him, 12. When the 7 loaves fed the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They told him, 7. He asked them, "Don't you understand yet?" He came to Bethsaida. They brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. He took hold of the blind man by the hand and brought him out of the village. When he had spat on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. He looked up and said, "I see men, but I see them like walking trees." He again laid his hands on his eyes. He looked intently and was restored and saw everyone clearly. He sent him away to his house, saying, "Don't enter into the village, nor tell anyone in the village." Jesus went out with his disciples into the villages of Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" They told him, "John the Baptizer, and others say Elijah, but others, one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." He commanded them that they should tell no one about it. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed. And after 3 days, rise again. He spoke to them openly. Peter took him and began to rebuke him. But he, turning around and seeing his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you have in mind not the things of God, the things of men." He called the multitude to himself with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wants to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake and the sake of the good news will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? For what will a man give in exchange for his life? For whoever will be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." He said to them, "Most certainly I tell you, there are some standing here who will in no way taste death till they see God's kingdom come with power." I apologize. So we're about to start chapter 9. I was just enjoying reading. So, chapter 9. He said to them, "Most certainly I tell you, there are some standing here who will in no way taste death till they see God's kingdom come with power." After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and brought them up onto a high mountain, privately, by themselves, and he was changed into another form in front of them. His clothing became glistening, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth can whiten them. Elijah and Moses appeared to them, and they were talking with Jesus. Peter answered Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." For they didn't know what to say, for they were very afraid. A cloud came, overshadowing them, and a voice came out of the cloud, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Suddenly, looking around, they saw no one with them anymore except Jesus only. And they were coming down from the mountain. He commanded them that they should tell no one what things they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. They kept this saying to themselves, questioning what the rising from the dead meant. They asked him, saying, "Why did the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" He said to them, "Elijah indeed comes first and restores all things. How is it written about the Son of Man that he should suffer many things and be despised? But I tell you that Elijah has come. They have also done to him whatever they wanted to, even as it is written about him. Coming to the disciples, he saw a great multitude around them, and scribes questioning them immediately. All the multitude, when they saw him, were greatly amazed. Running to him, greeted him. He asked the scribes, "What are you asking them?" One of the multitude answered, "Teacher, I brought to you my son who has a mute spirit, and whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams at the mouth, grinds his teeth, becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to cast it out. They weren't able." He answered him, "Unbelieving generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me." They brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed. He fell to the ground, wallowing and foaming at the mouth. He asked his father, "How long has it been since this has been happening to him?" He said, "From childhood. Often has cast him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately, the father of the child cried out with tears, "I believe, help my unbelief." When Jesus saw that a multitude came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to him, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." After crying out and convulsing him greatly, it came out of him. The boy became like one dead, so much so that most of them said, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand, raised him up, and he arose. When he had come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why couldn't we cast it out?" He said to them, "This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting." They went out from there and passed through Galilee. He didn't want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples and said to them, "The Son of Man is being handed over to the hands of men, and they will kill him. And when he is killed, on the third day he will rise again." But they didn't understand the saying, were afraid to ask him. He came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing amongst yourselves on the way?" But they were silent, for they had disputed with one another on the way about who was the greatest. He sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, "Any man who wants to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all." He took a little child and set him in the middle of them. Taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever receives one such little child in my name receives me. And whoever receives me doesn't receive me, but him who sent me." John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone who doesn't follow us, casting out demons in your name. We forbade him because he doesn't follow us." But Jesus said, "Don't forbid him, for there is no one who will do a mighty work in my name and be able quickly to speak evil of me. For whoever is not against us is on our side. For whoever will give you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you are Christ, most certainly I tell you, he will in no way lose his reward. Whoever will cause one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him if he were thrown into a sea with a millstone hung around his neck. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. Better for you to enter into life maimed rather than having your two hands go into Gehenna. Gehenna is hell, or the fire pit. Into the unquenchable fire, where the worm doesn't die, the fire is not quenched. If your foot causes you to stumble, Cut it off. It is better for you to enter in life lame rather than having your 2 feet to be cast into Gehenna, the fire that will never be quenched. Where the worm doesn't die, the fire is not quenched. If your eye causes you to stumble, throw it out. It is better for you to enter into God's kingdom with 1 eye rather than having 2 eyes be cast into Gehenna, fire where worm doesn't die, fire is not quenched. For everyone will be salted with fire, and every sacrifice will be seasoned with salt. Salt is good. The salt has lost its saltiness. With what will you season? Have salt in yourself. Be at peace with one another. Thank you for reading with me today. We'll pick up with chapter 10 the next session. Hope you have a good day and God bless. I'll provide a copy of the entire PDF, the entire World English Bible, in the description below if you haven't seen that yet. And thank you if you have been blessed in any ways, if you've made it this far. Please like and subscribe. That's all I ask. Take care.